What's up, everyone, and welcome to this week's Cybersecurity Weekly, where we review the security events that happened in the last week. As always, I've broken the stories down in the timeline, so you can jump around to any story that you wish. If you found my work valuable, of course, I ask you to hit the like button, and if you have not already, please also consider subscribing to my channel. China is currently the country with the largest number of Android mobile devices, but a recent study conducted by researchers from the University of Edinburgh and the Trinity College of Dublin revealed that top-of-the-line Android devices sold in the country are shipped with spyware. The boffins used static and dynamic code analysis techniques to study the data transmitted by the pre-installed system apps on Android smartphones from three of the most popular vendors in China: Xiaomi, OnePlus, and Oppo Realme. The experts discovered several system, vendor, and third-party apps with dangerous privileges. The apps were designed to exfiltrate user and device information in a stealthy way, including system information, geolocation, user profile, social relationships, and call history. The smartphones analyzed by the researchers were observed sending data to the device vendor and the Chinese mobile network operators, like China Mobile and China Unicom, even though they do not provide any service to the device, meaning the SIM card is not present in the phone, or if the SIM card used was provided by a different operator in China or in the UK. This malicious software puts users' privacy at risk. It can be used to spy on users and unmasking their identities. The experts pointed out that also users that leave the country are exposed to surveillance through the pre-installed software. The researchers also compared the pre-installed system apps on the Chinese and global, including EU, Android operating system distributions from the same operating system developers. They discovered the number of pre-installed third-party apps on China OS distributions is 3 to 4 times larger than for the corresponding global operating system distribution, and that these are given 8 to 10 times as many permissions as third-party apps in the global distributions. Overall, our findings paint a troubling picture of the state of user data privacy in the world, so not just China, or in the world's largest Android market, and highlights the urgent need for tighter privacy controls to increase the ordinary people's trust in technology companies, many of which are partially state-owned, raised the paper published by the experts. It could easily lead to persistent tracking of users and easy unmasking of their identities. Again, we said that earlier. The experts measured the network traffic generated by the devices when in use by a privacy-aware consumer who opts out of analytics and personalization, but does not use any other optional third-party services or any cloud storage, and does not set up any account on any platform of the operating system distribution developer. And the researchers discovered major differences in terms of how privacy provisions are enforced in different regions. In China, phone numbers are registered under a citizen ID, which means that it was possible to link the device to the real identity of the owners. The Collective Anonymous released last week 128 gigabytes of documents that were allegedly stolen from the Russian internet service provider Convex. The huge trove of data was released by an affiliate of the anonymous affiliate group called CERT-UA. The stolen documents contain evidence of a dragnet surveillance activity conducted by the intelligence service FSB. The Russian government illegally monitors citizens and private organizations across Russia. According to the collecting, Convex company launched a project codenamed Green Atom that aims to spy on Russian citizens by using surveillance equipment. The warrantless surveillance of Russian citizens violates the country's own laws and their citizens' rights. Such surveillance activities are classified as unauthorized wiretapping, espionage, and warrantless surveillance of civilians, which are against the country's laws. The Green Atom TSORM FSB refers to the installation and maintenance of wide-ranging surveillance equipment that is used to monitor the online activity of all traffic in and out of Convex, reads a statement sent by CERT-UA to the Kiev Post. This can be classified as espionage, unauthorized wiretapping, and surveillance of citizens without a warrant, which circumvents the laws of the Russian Federation and all public statements of the Russian authorities. They are actively transmitting data to Moscow. It's not just preemptive tapping, continues the group. According to the stolen data, Convex employees were conducting the activity in coordination with the Federal Security Service. Documents confirming the existence of this project, as well as the correspondence of Convex employees with the FSB, are now available not only to us, but also to you, continues the group. Exposed data put Russia organizations whose data are included in the archive at risk of hacking. According to the hackers, the Green Atom data confirms the extent to which these legal structures are abused. They say the internet provider captured and mirrored virtually all data from every switch in the largest regions of Russia, which is then passed on to Moscow for use by the security services state's DDoS secrets. Now, Russia is known to conduct domestic surveillance using surveillance systems called SORM. There's a bunch of whatever non-readable text there. The Russian government obliges national ISPs to purchase and install the probes used by SORM system that allows the Federal Security Service, or FSB, to monitor internet traffic, including online communications. SORM is a mass surveillance system that allows the government of Moscow to track the online activities of single individuals thanks to the support of the Russian ISPs. Atlassian has released security updates to address a critical vulnerability in Jira Service Management Server and Data Center, tracked to CVE 2023-22501 with a CVS score of 9.4, that could be exploited by an attacker to impersonate another user and gain unauthorized access to other Jira Service Management instances under certain circumstances. An authentication vulnerability was discovered in Jira Service Management Server and Data Center, which allows an attacker to impersonate another user and gain access to a Jira Service Management instance under certain circumstances, reads the advisory published by the Australian software services provider. With write access to a user directory and outgoing email enabled on a Jira Service Management instance, an attacker can gain access to sign-up tokens sent to users with accounts that have never been logged into. Access to these tokens can be obtained in two cases. Now, the issue doesn't impact users synced to Jira via read-only user directories or single sign-on. However, external customers who interact with the instance via email are still affected, even when single sign-on is configured. Atlassian addressed the flaw in the release of versions 5.3.3, 5.3.3, 5.5.1, and 5.6.0. The advisory pointed out that users accessing their Jira site via an Atlassian.net domain, it is hosted by Atlassian, and you are not affected by the vulnerability. Atlassian.net domain is, again, hosted by Atlassian, and again, you are not affected by the vulnerability. Now, Atlassian emphasized that Jira is sites hosted on the cloud via an Atlassian.net domain, again, are not affected by the flaw, and no action is required in this case. Now, in November 2022, the company addressed critical severity vulnerabilities in its identity management platform, Crowd Server, and Data Center, and in the Bitbucket Server and Data Center, a self-managed solution that provides source code collaboration for professional teams. The vulnerability in the Bitbucket source code repository hosting service tracked to CVE 2022-43781 is a critical command injection vulnerability. The vulnerability received a CVS score of 9 out of 10 and affects Bitbucket Server and Data Center version 7 and version 8 if mesh.enabled is set to false in Bitbucket properties. Australia Defense Department is going to replace the all surveillance cameras made by Chinese firms Hikvision and Dahua, who are linked to the government of Beijing. The decision of the Australian government is aligned with similar decisions taken by the US and UK governments. An internal audit of surveillance equipment in Australia government and agency offices revealed the presence of more than 900 built systems manufactured by Chinese companies Hikvision and Dahua. Where those particular cameras are found, they're going to be removed. Australian Defence Minister Richard Marles told Australia Broadcasting Corp, "There is an issue here, and we're going to deal with it. The presence of cameras poses an unacceptable risk to the national security." Now, the risk has obviously been there. Again, this is him saying, I might say, for some time and predates us coming into office. But that said, it's important that we go through this exercise and make sure that our facilities are completely secure, Marles added. The audit conducted by the Shadow Cybersecurity Minister, James Patterson, revealed that there are 195 Chinese-made surveillance devices used by the Attorney General Department across 29 locations. There are 154 more at the Department of Climate Change and Energy, and 134 more at social services offices. ASIO Director General Mike Burgess has said the data collected by Hikvision and Dahua cameras and where it would end up and what else it could be used for would be of great concern to him and his agency, Patterson. Now, our AUKUS partners and closest security allies, the United States and UK, announced in November 2022 that they were banning the devices from all government buildings because of the national security threat that they pose. The Guardian reported that Patterson raised concerns there may be Chinese cameras inside Parliament House, but he has yet to receive confirmation from the Department of Social Services. Now, on Wednesday, the newly appointed chair of the Australian War Memorial, Kim Beazley, confirmed that several Chinese-made security cameras would be removed from the location in an abundance of caution. The Chinese government is disappointed by this decision, of course. Chinese Foreign Minister spokesperson Mao Ning defined this move as wrongful practices that overstretch the concept of national security and abuse state power to suppress and discriminate against Chinese enterprises. Now, the Chinese government has always encouraged Chinese enterprises to carry out foreign investment and cooperation in accordance with market principles and international rules, and on the basis of compliance with local laws, meaning laws in Australia or the UK or the United States, Mao said. Now, we hope Australia will provide a fair and non-discriminatory environment for the normal operation of Chinese enterprises and do more things that are conducive to mutual trust and cooperation between the two sides. I guess that statement could go both ways. The U.S. CISA added actively exploited flaws in Fortra MFT, Intel driver, and TerraMaster NAS, respectively tracked to CVE 2023-0669 and CVE 2015-2291 and CVE 2022-24990 to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog. The CVE 2015-2291 flaw with the CVSS version 3.7.8 is a denial of service issue that resides in the Intel Ethernet Diagnostics driver for Windows, IQVW32.sys and IQVW64.sys. The CVE 2022-24990 flaw is a remote command execution vulnerability in the TerraMaster OS that can allow an unauthenticated user to execute commands on the target endpoint. The issue was also reported in the Joint Cybersecurity Advisory published by U.S. and South Korean agencies about North Korea-linked app groups conducting ransomware attacks against healthcare and critical infrastructure facilities to fund their activities. Flaws exploited by North Korea-linked app groups to gain initial access to the target infrastructure. Now, the CVE 2023-0669 flaw is a remote code injection issue that impacts GoAnywhere MFT. The vulnerability can only be exploited by attackers with access to the administrative console of the application. Fortra, formerly Help Systems, GoAnywhere MFT contains a pre-authentication remote code execution vulnerability in the license response servlet due to deserializing an attacker-controlled object. Bleepy Computer reported that the Clop Ransomware gang claimed to have exploited this vulnerability to steal data from over 130 organizations. Now, according to Binding Operation Directive BOD 2201, reducing the significant risk of known exploited vulnerabilities, FCEB agencies have to address the identified vulnerabilities by the due date to protect their networks against attacks exploiting the flaws in the catalog. Okay, experts also recommend that private organizations do the same. Now, the due date here is March 3rd, 2023. The Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency added Oracle and SugarCRM flaws, respectively tracked to CVE 2022-21587 and CVE 2023-22952 to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog. The CVE 2022-21587 flaw with a CVSS score of 9.8 affects the Oracle e-Business Suite, which is a set of enterprise applications that allows organizations to automate processes such as supply chain management, or SCM, enterprise resource planning, ERP, and customer relationship management, CRM. Now, the vulnerability resides in the Web Applications Desktop Integrator of Oracle Enterprise Product and was addressed in October 2022. An unauthenticated attacker can easily exploit the flaw via HTTP to take over Oracle Web Applications Desktop Integrator installs. And the issue impacts versions of 12.2.3 and 12.2.11. Shadow Server researchers reported having observed first exploitation attempts on January 21st, only 5 days after the cybersecurity firm Viatel Cybersecurity released a proof-of-concept exploit code for this issue. Now, the CVE 2023-22952 flaw with a CVSS score of 8.8 is a remote code execution vulnerability that affects multiple SugarCRM products. According to Binding Operation Directive BOD 2022-01, we know the spiel, we know the deal, the date is here, is February 23rd, 2023. The Clop Ransomware group claims to have stolen sensitive data from over 130 organizations by exploiting a zero-day vulnerability, CVE 2023-0669 in Fortra GoAnywhere MFT secure file transfer tool. Bleeping Computer reported. We just saw that in the CISA report that they added it to their known exploits. Now, Fortra immediately addressed the flaw with the release of emergency security patch and urged customers to install it. Popular investigator Brian Krebs first revealed details about the zero-day on Mastodon and pointed out that Fortra has yet to share a public advisory. GoAnywhere MFT, a popular file transfer application, is warning about a zero-day remote code injection exploit. The company said it has temporarily implemented a service outage in response. Krebs wrote on Mastodon, "I had to create an account on the service to find this security advisory." Now, according to the private advisory published by Fortra, the zero-day is a remote code injection issue that impacts GoAnywhere MFT. The vulnerability can only be exploited by attackers with access to the administrative console of the application. Now, installs with administrative consoles and management interfaces that are not exposed on the internet are safe. However, security researcher Kevin Beaumont discovered about 1,000 internet-facing consoles. Fortra recommends GoAnywhere MFT customers to review all administrative users and monitor for unrecognized usernames, especially those created by system. Clop told Beeping Computer that they were able to compromise over 130 organizations in just 10 days, but did not share details regarding their claims. Beeping Computer could not independently confirm Clop's claims, and Fortra has not replied to emails asking for more info regarding CVE 2023-20669 exploitation and the ransomware group's allegations. The crooks also claim to have fully compromised the network organizations but did not deploy any ransomware. Multiple experts already released exploits for the CVE 2023-0669 vulnerability. On February 6, 2023, the researcher Florian Hauser of IT security consulting firm Code White released a proof-of-concept exploit code. Now, Ron Bowes, lead security researcher at Rapid7, announced they have merged their exploit for Fortra GoAnywhere MFT into Metasploit. Now, they just merged, and that's their tweet. Researchers at threat intelligence firm Huntress shared findings of the investigation into GoAnywhere MFT exploitation and linked the attacks to the TA505 threat actors. Ransomware attacks on critical infrastructure conducted by North Korea-linked hacker groups are used by the government of Pyongyang to fund its malicious cyber operations. U.S. and Korean agencies warn. U.S. CISA published a cybersecurity advisory to provide information about the threat actors to network defenders. The joint CISA about ongoing ransomware activity against healthcare and public health sector organizations and other critical infrastructure sector entities is the result of the collaboration between the United States National Security Agency, or NSA, the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation, or FBI, the U.S. Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, the Republic of Korea, ROK, National Intelligence Services, NIS, and the ROK Defense Security Agency, hereafter referred to as the authoring agencies. Now, this advisory highlights TTPs and IOCs, DPRK cyber actors used to gain access to and conduct ransomware attacks against healthcare and public health sector organizations and other critical infrastructure sector entities, as well as DPRK cyber actors' use of cryptocurrency to demand ransoms, reads the Joint Advisory. Now, the proceeds from ransom payments are used by the North Korean government to fund malicious activities, including cyber operations against the United States and South Korea. Now, the list of targets includes Department of Defense information networks and Defense Industrial Base member networks. Some of the ransomware families attributed to the North Korea apt group include... What happened there? Include Maui, Holy Ghost, and VHD. The government agencies detailed TTPs associated with North Korean apt groups such as whatever was listed after there. The agencies recommend organizations to limit access to data by authenticating and encrypting connections, implement the principles of least privilege, turn off weak or unnecessary network device management interfaces, enforce multi-layer network segmentation, protect stored data, require phishing-resistant authentication controls, use monitoring tools, and maintain periodic data backups. Security Scorecard researchers published a list of proxy IPs used by the pro-Russia group Killnet with the intent to interfere with its operation and block its attacks. Now, to help organizations better protect themselves, Security Scorecard has published this list of proxy IPs, again, to help block the Killnet DDoS bot. Reads a post published by the security firm Security Scorecard. The Killnet Group has been active since March 2022. It launched DDoS attacks against governments and critical infrastructure of countries that expressed support to Ukraine, including Italy, Romania, Moldova, the Czech Republic, Lithuania, Norway, and Latvia. Earlier in the month, the Dutch National Cybersecurity Center reported that the websites of several hospitals in the Netherlands and Europe were hit by DDoS attacks carried out by the group Killnet. The group of hackers launched the offensive against the hospitals in the European countries due to their support for Ukraine. Hospitals in Europe, including the Netherlands, have in all likelihood been targeted by the pro-Russian group Killnet, the NCSC said. Earlier in the week, experts from CERT, the computer emergency response team for the Dutch healthcare sector, blamed the Killnet group for the cyber attacks that hit the University Medical Center Groningen on Saturday. The pro-Russia group of hackers targeted 31 Dutch hospitals. The hackers also targeted hospitals in the UK, Germany, Poland, Scandinavia, the United States. Last week, the group announced the attacks on its Telegram channel, calling for action against the U.S. government healthcare. So the pro-Russia group intensified its activity. The group launched a series of DDoS attacks against the websites of German airports, administration bodies, and banks. The attacks are the Hacktivists' response to the German government decision to send Leopard 2 tanks to the Ukraine. In November, Killnet claimed responsibility for the DDoS attack that took down the website of the European Parliament website. The attack was launched immediately after lawmakers approved a resolution calling Moscow a state sponsor of terrorism. Lists of proxy IPs shared by the experts also include addresses used by other gangs. The list was published on GitHub and contains around 17,746 IP addresses. Is probably growing. The knowledge of these IP addresses can allow organizations to blacklist them. A collective of hackers that calls itself Ali Justice, or Edalat-e-Ali, disrupted the transmission of an Iranian State TV and radio station and aired the slogan "Death to Khomeini," asking Iranians to withdraw their money from government banks. The attack took place during the speech of Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi at Azadi Square in Tehran as part of the Revolution Day commemoration on February 11th, 2023. The hackers called to action the citizens to protest against the government and invited them to participate in the public demonstration that will be held on February 16th, or was held on February 16th, 2023. Raisi, his live televised speech, was interrupted on the internet for about a minute, with a logo appearing on the screen of a group of anti-Iranian government hackers that goes by the name of Edalati blah blah blah. A voice shouted, "Death to the Islamic Republic," reported Reuters. Edalat-e-Ali is a group of hacktivists that conducted multiple attacks against the government of Tehran. The protests began after the death of Masi Amini from Sakez in Kurdistan province after her arrest by Iranian morality police for allegedly wearing her hijab too loosely. The authorities claimed Amini died of natural causes after suffering heart failure while it was at the police station, but citizens don't believe this is the truth and moved the protests to the streets. In September 2022, Anonymous launched Op Iran against Iran due to the ongoing crackdown on dissent after Masi Amini died, or her death. The HackRead website, which reported the news along with other media, shared the video message that was transmitted by the hackers. The Edalat-e-Ali group claimed the responsibility for the attack on its Telegram channel. "We, the Adalat-e-Ali group, hacked the Islamic Republic of Iran TV and radio transmission. First of all, the Adalat-e-Ali group offers its condolences to the entire freedom-loving nation on the Decade of Dawn and the impure arrival of Khomeini, the executioner, to Iran." Now, rights group Harana said that as of Friday, 528 protesters had been killed, including 71 minors. The government has already arrested around 20,000 protesters. In October 2022, the Edalat-e-Ali group interrupted the Iran state-run TV live transmission in another attack. In September 2022, Global Internet Monitor NetBlocks reported a near-total disruption to internet service in parts of Kurdistan province in western Iran from the evening of Monday, the 19th of December 2022. Technion, Israel Institute of Technology, is Israel's top technology research university and a leading center for cybersecurity education. A new anti-Israel threat actor, calling itself Darkbit, is claiming responsibility for the ransomware attack that breached the institute on Sunday, February 12th. The Darkbit group is demanding 80 Bitcoin for decryption, but experts pointed out that the hacker crew appears to be politically motivated, and it's unlikely they would give out a decryption key even if demands are met. "We hacked Technion, the technological core of an apartheid regime. They should pay for their lies and crimes, their names and shames. They should pay for occupation, war crimes against humanity, killing the people, not only the Palestinian bodies, but also Israeli souls, and destroying the future and all dreams we had. They should pay for firing high-skilled experts. Say goodbye to your security if you support or have any kind of collaboration or partnership with Israel, or you pay its expensive price," reads the message published by the group in its Telegram channel. The ransom note is written using an English translator, VX Underground researchers noticed. Darkbit is threatening to raise the amount by 30% if Technion refuses to pay the demanded sum within 48 hours. Army Radio said that all exams would be postponed pending resolution of the security breach, the Jerusalem Post reported. Israeli authorities launched an investigation into the incident. The Israel National Cyber Directorate, or INCD, said it is in touch with Technion to get a full picture of the situation, to assist with the incident, and to study its consequences. The field of higher education has been a central target for cyber attackers, with the INCD identifying 53 serious incidents of such attacks in 2022, most of which were prevented, said the authority. The Italian National Security Agency, the ACN, warns of an ongoing massive ransomware campaign targeting VMware ESXi servers worldwide, including Italian systems. Well, Italy is part of the world, so would make sense, right? The attackers are attempting to exploit the CVE 2021-21974 vulnerability. According to the ACN, most of the attacks targeted systems in France, followed by Finland, North America, Canada, and the United States. Well, the United States is part of North America, but okay. The alert issued by the agency states that the Italian Computer Security Incident Response Team, Italy, is aware of dozens of local organizations exposed to ransomware attacks exploiting the CVE 2021-21974 flaw in VMware ESXi servers. We've been able to make a census of several dozen national systems that are likely to be compromised and alerted numerous organizations whose systems are exposed but not yet compromised, reads the alert published by ACN. However, some systems exposed are yet to be compromised, and for some of them, it was not possible to track back to the owners. Government experts urge organizations to immediately apply security patches to address the vulnerability and prevent its exploitation. The vulnerability is an OpenSSH heap overflow flaw in VMware ESXi that can be exploited by attackers to execute arbitrary code remotely on vulnerable devices. The vulnerability affects a number of systems. Now, the virtualization giant addressed the CVE 2021-21974 bug in February 2021. According to the alert published by the ACN, the ransomware attacks were first reported by the France CERT. CERT France reported that threat actors behind these ransomware attacks are actively exploiting the vulnerability. On February 3rd, 2023, CERT France became aware of attack campaigns targeting VMware ESXi hypervisors with the aim of deploying ransomware on them, reads the alert published by CERT France. In the current state of investigations, these attack campaigns seem to exploit the CVE 2021-21974 vulnerability, for which a patch has been available since February 23rd, 2021. This vulnerability affects the Service Location Protocol, or SLP service, and allows an attacker to remotely exploit arbitrary code or execute arbitrary code. The systems currently targeted would be ESXi hypervisors in version 6.x and prior to 6.7. CERT French urges applying all patches available for ESXi hypervisor. It also recommends performing a system scan to detect any signs of compromise. The CERT France also recommends disabling the SLP servers or ESXi hypervisors that have not been updated. The ongoing ransomware attacks have been also reported by cloud service provider OVH Cloud, which observed most of the attacks in Europe. Researchers from Broadcom Symantec spotted a Russia-linked apt group tracked as Nodaria, aka UAC0056, deploying new info-stealing malware dubbed Graphiron in attacks against Ukraine. The Nodaria apt group has been active since at least March 2021. It focuses on Ukraine despite it has been having been involved in attacks on targets in Kyrgyzstan and Georgia. The Graphiron malware allows operators to harvest a wide range of information from the infected systems, including system information, credentials, screenshots, and files. The malicious code is written in Go programming language. It was first observed in October 2022 and was involved in attacks since at least mid-January 2023. Graphiron comprises two-stage components. A downloader comprises of two-stage components, a downloader, which is downloader.graphiron, and a payload, which is infostealer.graphiron. The downloader contains hard-coded command and control server addresses. Upon execution, the downloader will check against a blacklist of malware and analysis tools by checking for running processes with specific names like burp suite, windump, dumpcap, etc. If none of the blacklisted processes are found, it will connect to the command and control server and download download and decrypt the payload before adding it to the auto-run. The experts pointed out that the downloader runs just once. If it fails, it will not be executed anymore. Graphiron uses AES encryption and hard-coded keys. It creates a temporary file with the .lock and .trash extension. It uses hard-coded file names designed to masquerade as Microsoft Office executables like Office Template.exe and Microsoft Office Dashboard.exe. Reads the analysis published by Symantec. The malicious code uses a PowerShell command to steal passwords on the infected system. The researchers highlighted similarities between Graphiron and older tools in the Nodaria arsenal, such as GraphSteal and Grim Plant. The cyber espionage group Nodaria was linked to the Whispergate wiper attacks against Ukrainian government computers and websites in January 2022. The attack chain used by the app group usually starts with spear phishing messages, which are then used to deliver a malicious payload to victims. The list of custom tools used by the group was listed in the original article. While Nodaria was relatively unknown prior to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the group's high-level activity over the past year suggests that it is now one of the key players in Russia's ongoing cyber espionage campaigns against the Ukraine. Sentinel Labs researchers have observed the first Linux variant of the Clop Ransomware. Researchers noticed that the encryption algorithm implemented in the ELF executable is flawed and can allow victims to decrypt files or lock files without paying a ransom. Yay! The researchers observed the first ELF variant of the Clop ransomware targeting Linux systems on December 26, 2022. The experts found many similarities between Windows and the Linux variant, including the same encryption method and similar process logic. The sample was likely part of a bigger attack that hit the University of Columbia. On or around December 24, 2022, the cybercrime group behind the attack leaked the data stolen from the victim on January 5th, 2022. Or 2023, I guess it is. It appears to be in its initial development phases, as some functionalities present in the Windows versions do not currently exist in this new Linux version. Reads a report published by the experts. A reason for this could be that the threat actor has not needed to dedicate time and resources to improve obfuscation or evasiveness due to the fact that it is currently undetected by all 64 security engines on VirusTotal. Clop Ransomware Gang has been active since February 2019. Targeted many organizations and universities over the years. Like other ransomware gangs, Clop operators implemented a double extortion model, leaking on their leak sites the data stolen from the victims that refused to pay the ransom. In November 2021, 6 alleged affiliates with the Clop ransomware operation were arrested in an international joint law enforcement operation named Operation Cyclone, led by Interpol. The experts noticed that the Linux variant targets specific folders, subfolders, and all files and types, and it doesn't use a hashing algorithm such as the Windows variant in order to avoid encrypting specific folders and files. Sentinel-1 discovered a flaw in the ransomware encryption logic implemented in the Linux variant, which was found containing a hard-coded RC4 master key. During the execution of the main function, the master key is copied into the global variables SZ-key. During the file encryption phase, the ransomware, similar to the Windows version, generates a 0x75 bytes size RC4 key with the use of a lookup table and a PRNG byte. This generated RC4 key is used to encrypt the mapped address and write it back to the file, continues the report. Then, by using the RC4 master key, the ransomware encrypts the generated RC4 key and stores it to filename.clop_extension by using a symmetric algorithm. With just second RC4 to encrypt the file RC4 key, we were able to take advantage of this flaw and decrypt the Clop ELF encrypted files. The Linux variant of the Clop ransomware drops a .txt ransom note like readme ci opt or clopt, clopt.txt on the infected machines. A recently discovered threat actor tracked as TA886 by security firm Proofpoint is targeting organizations in the United States and Germany with new malware dubbed Screenshotter. The experts first spotted the attacks attributed to this threat actor in October 2022. They believe that the group is financially motivated. The TA886 group used custom toolsets such as Wasabi Seed and Screenshotter to take screenshots from the victim system and evaluate the opportunity to install a bot and stealer. The attack chain starts with phishing emails containing a malicious URL or malicious attachment that leads to deployment of Wasabi Seed and Screenshotter malware. The researchers also observed the threat actor conducting post-exploitation activity employing AHK bot and Radamanthus stealer. Never heard of Radamanthus stealer. Since October 2022 and continuing into January 2023, Proofpoint has observed a cluster of evolving financially motivated activity, which we are referring to as screen time. The attack chain starts with an email containing a malicious attachment or URL and leads to malware that Proofpoint dubbed Wasabi Seed and Screenshotter. Reads the post published by Proofpoint. Proofpoint is tracking this activity under threat actor designation TA8. It's actually 886. At least that's what it was previously written. Now it's 866. Thanks for confusing me. The threat actor used multiple tools in the delivery stage, including traffic distribution systems, malicious, some of which can be purchased from other threat actors in the cybercrime ecosystem. Experts, for example, observed phishing emails using Microsoft Publisher attachments with macros, or embedding malicious URLs linking via 404 TDS to publisher files with macros and JavaScript files. In other cases, the attackers used PDFs with URLs linking via 404 TDS to JavaScript files. Most of the attacks were observed between October and November 2022 and involved only a limited number of emails using publisher files sent to a small number of companies. Between November and December 2022, the threat actor switched to using URLs, and the volume of emails increased drastically. The campaigns consisted of thousands or even tens of thousands of emails on average. Bursts of emails were sent 2 to 4 times a week on January 2023. In January 2023, the experts observed a minor number of campaigns, but with greater email volumes. According to the analysis, upon clicking the URL, the attack chain will start, ending with the infection of the recipient system with the custom malware Screenshotter. The malware is able to take JPEG screenshots of the victim desktop and submit it to a remote command and control server via post to a hard-coded IP address. The gathered images allows threat actors to perform reconnaissance and victim profiling. The malware also drops additional custom payloads if necessary, including a domain profiler script that sends Active Directory domain details to the command and control server, and a loader script, which is AHK bot loader, that injects a fileless info-stealing malware dubbed Radamanthus in memory. The maintainers of OpenSSH have addressed a number of security vulnerabilities with release of version 9.2. One of the issues addressed by the maintainers is a memory safety bug in the OpenSSH server tracked as CVE 2023-25136. The vulnerability can be potentially exploited by a remote attacker to execute arbitrary code on the target system. The root cause of the flaw is a boundary error within the SSHD daemon. A remote non-authenticated attacker can send specially crafted data to the application, trigger a double free error, and execute arbitrary code on the target system, reads the advisory. The pre-authentication double-free memory fault was introduced in the release of OpenSSH 9.1. The release note published by the maintainers pointed out that this issue is not believed to be exploitable. OpenSSH Server 9.1 introduced a double-free vulnerability during options.kex_algorithms handling. This is fixed in OpenSSH 9.2. The double-free can be triggered by an unauthenticated attacker in the default configuration. However, the vulnerability discoverer reports that exploiting this vulnerability would not be easy. The vendor believes the exploitation of this vulnerability has limitations. This is not believed to be exploitable, and it occurs in the unprivileged pre-auth process that is subject to chroot and is further sandboxed on most major platforms, reads the release note. The flaw was reported by OpenSSH in July of 2022 by the researcher Montes Mikulenas. The exposure occurs in the chunk of memory freed twice, the options.kex_algorithms. The first time it was freed was via do_sh2_kex, which calls compat_kex_proposal in the case where the compatibility bit ssh_bug_curve25519pad is not set, and the compatibility bit ssh_old_dhgex is set. The options.kex_algorithms becomes a dangling pointer after being freed. This results in the memory being freed a second time via kex_assemble names with list p equal to and options.kex_algorithms, reads a post published by Qualys. Pro-Russia hacker group Killnet launched a distributed denial-of-service attack on NATO sites, including NATO Special Operations Headquarters website. The attack was confirmed by NATO, while a hacker group announced the attack on its Telegram channel with a special message. NATO cyber experts are actively addressing an incident affecting some NATO websites. NATO deals with cyber incidents on a regular basis and takes cybersecurity very seriously, reads a statement from NATO. We are carrying out strikes on NATO. Details in a closed channel, reads a message published by the pro-Russia group on its Telegram channel. According to the Telegraph, the website of NATO Special Operations Headquarters remained unreachable for a couple of hours. The attack also impacted the website of the Strategic Airlift Capability, which is a multinational initiative that provides its participating nations assured access to military airlift capability to address the growing needs for both strategic airlifts and tactical airlifts. In February 2022, the organization was involved in operations to deliver supplies to the Ukrainian army. In the past, the strategic airlift capability conducted multiple humanitarian missions. It is currently used to transport search and rescue equipment to Turkey, Syria area hit by the earthquake. The Telegraph reported that the DDoS attack impacted NATO NR network, which was communicating with a SAC C-17 aircraft. One of the organization's C-17 aircraft, which was believed to be flying supplies to the Incirlik air base in southern Turkey, was warned of the disruption in a message from the SAC manager via the ACARS, or Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, network, reported the Telegraph. The aircraft was told that NATO NR network, which is believed to be used for transmitting sensitive data, had been hit by the denial-of-service attack. Although contact with the aircraft was not lost, the hacker attack is likely to have hampered the relief efforts. Oh boy, those poor guys in Turkey. Last week, Security Scorecard researchers published a list of proxy IPs used by the pro-Russia group Killnet with the intent to interfere with its operation and block its attacks. The Killnet group has been active since March 2022. It launched DDoS attacks against governments and critical infrastructure of countries that express support to Ukraine, including Italy, Romania, Moldova, the Czech Republic, Lithuania, Norway, and Latvia. Earlier in the month, the Dutch National Cybersecurity Center, NCSC, reported that the websites of several hospitals in the Netherlands and Europe were hit by DDoS attacks carried out by the group Killnet. The group of hackers launched the offensive against the hospitals in the European countries due to their support for Ukraine. The City of Oakland disclosed a ransomware attack. The security breach began on Wednesday night. In an abundance of caution, the City of Oakland has taken impacted systems offline while they work to secure the impacted infrastructure. The City of Oakland has learned that it was recently subject to a ransomware attack that began on Wednesday night. The Information Technology Department is coordinating with law enforcement and actively investigating the scope and severity of the issue. Our core functions are intact. 911, financial data, and fire and emergency resources are not impacted, reads the notice published by the City of Oakland. The Information Technology Department notified local authorities and launched an investigation into the incident to determine the scope and severity of the issue. The notice published by the city confirmed that its core functions, the 911, financial data, and fire and emergency resources, were not impacted. However, it warns the public the possible of delays in public, services from the city as a result of the attack. Our core functions are intact. Again, here we go. 911, financial data, and fire and emergency services are not impacted. City is following industry best practices and developing a response plan to address the issue. The ransomware group behind the attacks is currently unknown, and the city is yet to share any details regarding ransom demands or data theft from compromised systems. The city is following industry best practices. Okay, we got that. Thank you. In an abundance of caution, ITD has taken the affected systems offline while they work to secure and restore services safely. Meantime, the public school expects delays from the city as a result. Yay for delays to public schools. Not. We are actively monitoring the situation and sending updated information as it becomes available. So, Reddit announced it was hit by a sophisticated and highly targeted attack that took place on February 5th, 2023. A highly targeted phishing attack hit the employees of the company. The company pointed out that Reddit user passwords and accounts were not compromised. The spear phishing messages redirected users to a website mimicking the company intranet gateway. The landing page was designed to trick victims into providing credentials and second-factor tokens. On late February 5th, 2023, we became aware of a sophisticated phishing campaign that targeted Reddit employees. As in most phishing campaigns, the attacker sent out plausible-sounding prompts pointing employees to a website that cloned the behavior of our intranet gateway in an attempt to steal credentials and second-factor tokens, reads a notice published by the company. Once hackers obtain a single employee credential, threat actors gain access to some internal documents, code, as well as some internal dashboards and business systems. The primary production systems of the company were not compromised. Exposure included limited contact information for currently hundreds of company contacts and employees, current and former, as well as limited advertiser information, continues the notice. Based on several days of initial investigation by security, engineering, and data science and friends, we have no evidence to suggest that any of your non-public data has been accessed or that Reddit information has been published or distributed online. The company states that the phished employee self-reported and launched an internal investigation to determine the extent of the incident. The security team responded quickly to the incident by locking out the intruders. Reddit set up two-factor authentication to increase the security of user accounts, which means they didn't have it before. The security researcher Eaton Zvire has exploited a vulnerability in Toyota Global Supplier Preparation Information Management System, or GSP-IMS, to achieve system admin access to Toyota Global Supplier Management Network. The GSP-IMS portal allows employees and suppliers to access to ongoing projects, surveys, information and purchases, or information on purchases. A JSON Web Token, or JWT, is a sort of session token that represents a user-valid authenticated session on a website. A user can usually get a JWT after logging into a website using his email and password. The analysis of the GSP-IMS app allowed the researcher to discover a function named Generate GWT that allows to generate a JWT based on a provided valid email address without providing any password. The researcher pointed out that corporate Toyota emails are easy to guess because using a predictable format like email, first name dot last name at whatever in North America, it was easy for the expert to find Toyota employees with Google queries. He also focused on the research of employees registered in the GSP-IMS system. Once he discovered the employee, Zviri was able to create a JWT HTTP request that returned a valid JWT. The expert used the JWT to access GSP-IMS portal, and after gaining access to the platform, he discovered an account with system administrator privileges. Oh boy. Checking the managers of the managers, etc., made it easy to find accounts that had elevated access to the system. Eventually, he found a North America regional admin that gave him access to the user administration section. He then poked around more and found users with even higher access, such as supplier admin, global admin, and finally, system admin. Reads a post published by the expert. In the GSPMIS system settings, the tabs that appear are dependent on your role. They're regional settings for regional admins, global settings for global admins, and system admin settings for system admins. System admins can access all tabs. The researcher was able to obtain access to a system admin account that gave him full access to the system. The expert gained access to information on over 14,000 user accounts, information related to all available project surveys and classified documents. He discovered that what was essentially a backdoor login mechanism in the Toyota GSPIMS website application that allowed him to log in as any corporate Toyota user or supplier just by knowing their email. He eventually uncovered a system administrator email and was able to log into their account. Once that was done, he had full control over the entire global system. Zaviri reported the flaw to Toyota on November 3rd, 2022, and the company confirmed the vulnerability was fixed on November 23rd, 2022. Who knows whether or not he got a payout. The Royal Ransomware Gang is the latest extortion group in order of time to add support for encrypting Linux systems and target VMware ESXi virtual machines. Other ransomware operators already support Linux encrypting, including Avos Locker, Black Basta, Black Matter, Hello Kitty, Hive, Lockbit, Luna, Nevada, RansomX, and RoarEvil. Bleeping Computer first reported that Equinix Threat Analysis Center researcher Will Thomas discovered the Linux variant of the Royal ransomware. The new variant appends the .royal_u extension to the file names of all encrypted files on the virtual machine. Querying virus total for the hash that was shared by the expert, they could then verify that currently the ransomware variant has a detection rate of 32 out of 63. According to Thomas, the malware is executed using the command line and support multiple parameters to control the encryption operations. Confirmed its ESXi Linux VMs ESX CLI VM process kill type equals hard world ID equals %s ESX CLI VM, so that's the command. When encrypting files, the ransomware will append the .royal_u extension to all encrypted files on the virtual machine. Royal Ransomware is a human-operated threat that first appeared on the threat landscape in September 2022. It has demanded ransom up to millions of dollars. Unlike other ransomware operations, Royal doesn't offer ransomware as a service. It appears to be a private group without a network of affiliates. Once compromised, or once a victim network is compromised, the threat actors deploy the post-exploitation tool Cobalt Strike to maintain persistence and perform lateral movements. Originally, the ransomware operation used Black Cat Encryptor, but later it started using Xeon. The ransom notes readme.txt include a link to the victim private negotiation page. Starting from September 2022, the note was changed to Royal. The Royal Ransomware can either fully or partially encrypt the file, depending on its size and the specific parameter. The malware changes the extension of the encrypted files to .royal. In November 2022, researchers from the Microsoft Security Threat Intelligence team warned that a threat actor tracked as Dev0569 is using Google Ads to distribute various payloads, including the recently discovered Royal Ransomware. The Dev0569 group carries out malvertising campaigns to spread links to a signed malware downloader, posing as software installers or fake updates embedded in spam messages, fake forum pages, and blog comments. In December 2022, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services warned healthcare organizations of Royal Ransomware attacks. Bleepy Computer Forum hosts a Royal Ransomware support topic on the specific threat. Last week, CERT-FA warned of an ongoing campaign targeting ESXi servers. Yesterday, the Italian National Cyber Agency also warned of an ongoing massive ransomware campaign targeting VMware ESXi servers worldwide, including Italian systems. The attackers were attempting to exploit the CVE 2021-21974 vulnerability. The State Cyber Protection Center, SCPC, of the Ukraine warns of a new wave of targeted attacks conducted by the Russia-linked app group Graphiron, aka Shockworm, aka Actinium, aka Armageddon, aka Primitive Bear, aka UAC0010, and aka Trident Ursa. The attacks aimed at public authorities and critical information infrastructure in the Ukraine. The government experts pointed out that the threat actor continues to evolve its TTPs to avoid detection. Currently, the Graphiron group is using the Gamma Load and Gamma Steal SPZs in their campaigns. The former is a VB script used to download next stage VB script from a remote server. Gamma Steal is a PowerShell script used to conduct reconnaissance and execute additional commands. The attack chain starts with spear phishing messages with a .rar attachment named 12-1125 whatever that is. The RAR archive contains a .link file, whatever that name is. Upon opening the .link file, it uses the system binary proxy execution technique through the execution of Windows native binary designed to execute Microsoft HTML application files to download a file via the specific URL. The government experts noticed that access to the file is allowed only from IP addresses in the Ukrainian address space. The current activity of the UIC 0010 group is characterized by an approach to the multi-stage loading and execution of payloads, or of WPS, which is used to maintain control over infected systems or infected hosts. Such payloads are similar types of malware which are developed by attackers to perform similar behavioral patterns. Here's the alert published by the SCPC. Currently, the UIC 0010 group uses the Gamaload and Gamasteel SPCs in their campaigns. One of the methods of getting this command and control IP address relies on the usage of legitimate third-party services such as Telegram and Cloudflare. Another method consists of pinging the subdomain rightmozengo.shop with WMI query and retrieving the protocol address value to obtain the command and control IP address. The State Cyber Protection Center published a technical report that provides details for each stage of the attack chain. So there was an original post back on Cyber News about Russian e-commerce giant data leaked. Founded in 1991, Elovel, previously Eleco, positions itself as the leading Russian electrical engineering company that runs both an e-commerce business and wholesale stores. On January 24th, the Cyber News research team discovered an open dataset of 1.1 terabytes of data and attributed it to eWay, an Elevel-owned online shop with 25,000 monthly visitors. The dataset, with 7 million data entries, leaked 2 years' worth of sensitive data, including names, surnames, phone numbers, email addresses, and delivery addresses of customers. If left exposed, threat actors could download and clone the cluster data and use it for nefarious purposes, including phishing attacks as they process sufficient personally identifiable information and to make their scam seem legitimate, Cyber News researchers said. Moreover, it contained login data and passwords in URL encoding, which is considered a relatively weak protection mechanism since it can be decoded easily. As a number of usernames and passwords are exposed, it could enable threat actors with valid credentials to gain further sensitive data and to impersonate users to make fraudulent purchases, Cyber News researchers noted. The dataset is now closed. We are still waiting to receive the company official response. If you want more information, go check out the original article. Russian media reported that Alexander Kinstein, the head of the Duma Committee on Information Policy, announced that the Russian government is evaluating to avoid punishing hackers acting in the interests of Moscow. The question of their exemption from liability needs to be worked out, said Alexander Kinstein, head of the Duma Committee on Information Policy, reported the Govorit Moskva website. The Russian government recognized the importance of cybercriminal gangs and hacktivists' contribution to the defense of its interests. This is an important official announcement. Even if the Russian government in the past demonstrated indulgence for cybercriminal gangs that avoided hitting computers in the country, multiple ransomware gangs developed their malware to avoid infecting systems in the Commonwealth of Independent States region, formed following the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991, and instructed the network of their affiliates not to target Russian organizations. The topic is crucial, especially in this historical moment. The ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine is characterized by the presence of non-state actors in cyberspace whose operations are reshaping the threat landscape. We're talking about, in general, working out the exemption from liability of those persons who act in the interests of Russian Federation in the field of computer information, both on the territory of our country and abroad, TASS quotes Kinstein. The Russian parliament announced that this proposal will be discussed more in detail in the next months with the intent to better formulate this initiative. The Russian law framework currently punishes crooks charged with creating, using, and distributing malware with up to 7 years in jail. On February 7, 2023, Russian national Denis Mikhailovich Dubnikov, 30 years old, pleaded guilty in the United States to one count of conspiracy to commit money laundering for the Ryuk Ransomware operation. Denis Mikhailovich Dubnikov was arrested in Amsterdam in November 2021 and was extradited to the U.S. in August 2022. According to the indictment, between at least August 2018 and August 2021, Dubnikov and his co-conspirators are alleged to have knowingly and intentionally laundered the proceeds of ransomware attacks on individuals and organizations throughout the United States and abroad, according to the press release published by DOJ in August. Specifically, Dubnikov and his accomplices laundered ransom payments extracted from victims of Ryuk ransomware attacks. The man received ransom payments from Ryuk operators and, along with his co-conspirators, used various financial transactions to conceal the ownership and the nature of the laundered proceeds. According to the investigations, in July 2019, Dubnikov laundered more than $400,000 in Ryuk ransomware proceeds. Individuals involved in the conspiracy laundered at least $70 million in ransom proceeds. Specifically, in July 2019, the United States-based company paid a 250 Bitcoin Ryuk ransom after a ransom attack. On or about July 11, 2019, in Moscow, Russia, Dubnikov accepted 35 Bitcoin from a co-conspirator in exchange for approximately $400,000, reads the press release. The Bitcoin transferred to Dubnikov were directly sourced from the ransom paid by the American company. Dubnikov converted the Bitcoin to Tether and sent it to a second co-conspirator who eventually exchanged it for Chinese renminbi. Dubnikov co-conspirators laundered additional Bitcoin sourced from the original ransom note payment. Dubnikov was compensated financially for his role in the scheme. Global Internet monitor NetBlocks reported that network data confirms that Twitter has been restricted in Turkey in the aftermath of the earthquake. The data show that multiple internet providers in Turkey blocked the popular platform as of Wednesday, February 8, 2023. Turk Telecom and Turkcell have completely blocked access to Twitter, while Vodafone still allows slower access to Twitter, reported the Balkanin site website. NetBlock's metrics confirm that the social network Twitter has been restricted by means of SNI filtering on major internet providers. The decision of the government to block Twitter followed growing public anger towards the Turkish government response to the devastating earthquakes. Turkish authorities raised concerns over disinformation online that can destabilize the political contest in the country while responding to this emergency. Network data confirms the restriction of Twitter on multiple internet providers in Turkey, again as of Wednesday, 8th of February, reported NetBlocks. Service was restored the next morning after state media reported that Turkish authorities had held a meeting with Twitter head of policy on disinformation and the need for content takedowns. However, the use of VPN services can be used by people in the country to circumvent internet censorship measures. Twitter remains a crucial service of information for relatives of victims, survivors, and rescuers. It is important to highlight that natural disasters usually have a significant impact on internet connectivity. NetBlocks reported similar problems in Turkey after the earthquake, as reported by the following tweet from the organization. The use of internet filtering in the aftermath of an earthquake is absurd because of its impact on the population that is facing this tragic situation. The Computer Emergency Response Team of Ukraine, CERT-UA, is warning of a phishing campaign aimed at state authorities that involves the use of the legitimate remote access software REMCOS. The phishing emails alleged from JSC Telecom have the subject court claim against your personal account. Ooh, that's as old as history. And come with a .rar attachment name court letter information on det.rar. Wow, they were trying to get you, huh? The RAR archive contains a text document named Your Personal Access Code and another password-protected RAR archive named court letter information on det. The latter archive contains an executable named court letter information on det.pdf.exe. Upon executing the executable, and the RAMCOS remote monitoring and surveillance program is installed on the victim machine. The alert pointed out that this executable is more than 600 megabytes in size. RAMCOS is a legitimate remote monitoring and surveillance software developed by the company Breaking Security. The CERT-UA attributed the campaign to a nation-state actor tracked as UAC 0050. Detected activity has been tracked under UAC 0050 since at least 2020. Previous cyber attacks by the mentioned group were carried out using the program for remote administrative remote utilities, reads the alert issued by the Ukrainian CERT. Based on the fact that the objects of cyber attacks are usually, but not exclusively, the state authorities of the Ukraine, and also taking into account the functionality of the programs used, they believe that the activity is carried out for the purpose of espionage. The alert published by the CERT-UA also included indications of compromise or IOCs. Recently, the State Cyber Protection Center, SCPC, of Ukraine also warned of targeted attacks conducted by the Russian app group Graphiron, again, aka Sharkworm, aka Actinium, aka Armageddon, Primitive Bear, UIC 10, and Trident Ursa, against public authorities and critical information infrastructure in the Ukraine. The U.S. and the U.K. authorities have sanctioned 7 Russian individuals for their involvement in the TrickBot operations. The U.S. Treasury has frozen the assets belonging to the individuals and imposed travel bans against them. The U.S. Treasury points out that persons that engage in certain transactions with the sanctioned individuals may themselves be exposed to the designation. Today, the United States, in coordination with the United Kingdom, is designating 7 individuals who are part of the Russia-based cybercrime TrickBot, reads the press release published by the U.S. Treasury. Russia is a haven for cybercriminals, where groups such as TrickBot freely perpetrate malicious cyber activities against the US, the UK, and allies and partners. These malicious cyber activities have targeted critical infrastructure, including hospitals and medical facilities, during a global pandemic in both the US and the UK. This is the first time the UK government has imposed such kinds of sanctions. Its authorities collaborated with the US Department of the Treasury Office of Foreign Assets Control and the UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, National Crime Agency, and His Majesty Treasury. The members of the TrickBot group are also linked to the Russian intelligence services, assuming the FSB. The TrickBot group perpetrations in 2020 aligned them to Russian state objectives and targeting previously conducted by Russian intelligence services, continues the press release. This targeted the U.S. government and U.S. companies, so the list of the Russian individuals was within the original article. By sanctioning these cyber criminals, we're sending a clear signal to them and others involved in ransomware that they will be held accountable, said the UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly. It wasn't a very clever sentence from Mr. Cleverly, now was it? These cynical cyber attacks cause real damage to people's lives and livelihoods. Okay, well, that was a little more clever. We will always put our national security first by protecting the UK and our allies from serious organized crime, whatever its form and wherever it originates. This is a hugely significant moment, sound like Donald Trump, for the UK and our collaborative efforts with the US to disrupt international cyber criminals, said National Cyber Agency Director General Graham Bigar. The sanctions are the first of their kind for the UK and signal the continuing campaign targeting those responsible for some of the most sophisticated and damaging ransomware that has impacted the UK and their allies. They show that these criminals and those that support them are not immune to UK action, and this is just one tool we will use to crack down on this threat and protect the public. TrickBot is a popular Windows banking Trojan that has been around since October 2016, so that's 4 + 3, that's 7 years. Its authors have continuously upgraded it by implementing new features, including powerful password stealing capabilities. Good news for the victims of the recent wave of ESXi ARGS ransomware attacks that we've talked about maybe 3 or 4 times within this weekly. The US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency has released a script to allow them to recover encrypted VMware ESXi servers. The French Computer Emergency Response Team last Friday first warned that threat actors are targeting VMware ESXi servers to deploy ransomware. CERT-FR reported that threat actors behind these ransomware attacks are actively exploiting the vulnerability CVE 2021-21974. Experts noticed that only a few thousand systems were encrypted worldwide. Jack Cable, a senior technical advisor at CISA, published a list of 2,803 Bitcoin addresses associated with the infections. The good news is that in most cases, the attacks failed because the ESXi ARGS ransomware did not encrypt virtual disk files. Then the US CISA released a script to recover VMware ESXi servers. It is compiled based on publicly available resources. So, we released an ESXi ARGS ransomware recovery script on GitHub to allow organizations to attempt recovery of virtual machines affected by the ESXi ARGS. So that's like the tweet. ESXi ARGS Recover is a tool to allow organizations to attempt recovery of virtual machines. So again, attempt. The word attempt is there, so it's not guaranteed. Of virtual machines affected by the ESXi ARGS ransomware attacks, reads the description published by the agency. CISA is aware that some organizations have reported success in recovering files without paying ransoms. CISA compiled this tool based on publicly available resources, including a tutorial by ENS Sonmez and Ahmet Aykak. This tool works by reconstructing virtual machine metadata from virtual disks that were not encrypted by the malware. Sorry if I butchered your guys' names. The script reconstructs virtual machine metadata from virtual disks that were not encrypted by the ransomware. As usual, every time we attempt to recover files encrypted by ransomware, it is a good practice to create a backup of the server. This script does not seek to delete the encrypted config files, but instead seeks to create new config files that enable access to the VMs. While CISA works to ensure that scripts like this one are safe and effective, this script is delivered without warranty, either implicit or explicit. Do not use this script without understanding how it may affect your system. CISA does not assume liability for damage caused by this script. You get no refund. You get no surprise. There's no door number 3. VMware yesterday said that it found no evidence that the threat actors behind the ongoing ESXi ARGS ransomware attacks are leveraging a zero-day vulnerability in VMware ESXi servers. Again, it's this 2021-21974 vulnerability. VMware has not found evidence to suggest an unknown vulnerability. Again, a zero-day is being used to propagate the ransomware used in these recent attacks. Reads the latest advisory published by the company. Most reports state that end of general support, or EOGS, and or significantly out-of-date products are being targeted with known vulnerabilities which were previously addressed and disclosed in VMware security advisories. And that's the news. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you haven't already, and smash the bell if you haven't already, and I'll see you on the next.
Don't forget to ride. Farewell.